Hey YouTubers, Keith McGowan, the Outboard Dad here to help you have a better boating experience. Today we're going to talk a little bit about rigging outboards. We have our engine hoist over here. We're going to put that together. I'm going to show you a little bit about that. It's a Harbor Freight. So please like, subscribe, send me any comments that you have, and we'll get into it. Now safety is the utmost of importance, right? So you want to make sure the tools you have, the equipment you're using can handle the weight of what you're working on. So no liability at Outboard Dad at all. Don't try this at home unless you're a professional. We're going to get into rigging this first. We'll rig this off of here because we got that Mercury out there that we're going to work on next that has the engine knock. So we're going to get into some deep engine work. But we're going to show you how we do the rigging here and what you need to do to rig safely. So we'll pull this cover off. There's a couple of rigging points. It's a little different for different outboard motors. You're going to see on the Mercury we're going to use a puller tool actually to rig it. We're going to use a steering wheel puller tool that I just have a little eye bolt that I connected to. But all of my tools, equipment, chains, shackles are all rated for 3, 4, 5 times the capacity that I'm going to lift with. So make sure that you're safe in what you're doing. That's the key. So let's get this cover off and let's see where we're going to rig from. So this motor, 60-degree motor from the Johnson Evinrude family, has a few rigging points. Has one here, a little tight to get in on this one, so you have to look at carefully and get in there. Some good shackles. And then on the other side, we have one that's a little easier to access. So those are our 2 rigging points. We're going to rig this straight up with our engine hoist, and we'll get this off. I'm going to show you a little piece of 4x6 that I built with some wheels on it so that it's easier to move it around in the shop. So we'll show you how that works. So pretty straightforward engine hoist here from Harbor Freight. You've probably seen them for sale or you've seen guys use them many times. They do fold up nicely to get out of the way. And there's a few pins on the bottom, so we'll show a little bit of that hold it in place here. So we're going to remove this pin, take this pin out. We're going to go ahead and bring our leg down. And it can be a little tricky because we need to pick the front of it up a little bit. So sometimes you can grab it. I can put my foot against the wheel and I can go ahead and lean back a little bit and get that in. Put the pin back in so it's safe. Now we're going to put the other leg down and then we'll crank it up. So we want to make sure first of all that we're tight on our jack. So again, this is a Harbor Freight hoist. I've had it, I don't know, 20 years. And this has got a warranty on it, so it's probably the 3rd one I've been on, so I get the extended warranty, and this one has lasted probably 10 years, so I think it's way out of that now. And then we're just going to go ahead and jack it up, and get this straight, and I'll show you what we'll do with it. So now that I've got the hoist jacked up to about level, there is a bolt here if you haven't used these before, and you can extend out if you see the different weight ratings that are on here. So you want to understand and make sure you know the weight rating that you're working with. These outboard motors are somewhere in the 450-pound range. So when I pull this out and I go in my last hole, because I want to have it extended as far as I can go, it says half a ton. So half a ton is 1,000 pounds, as 1 ton is 2,000 pounds. So now I know I'm double what I know I can lift. So you have to be careful. I've seen guys before where they'll extend the boom out even further or they'll add on to this boom. Well, if you go out past your feet with the boom, it's going to tip over, right? So you got to be very careful with doing that. Also, I know this chain is probably going to be a little bit too long because I've lifted with this before. So I'm going to go ahead and move this chain up a little higher. And then I have a chain that's rated for 2,500 pounds, single strength, and we're going to double up on it. So I'm just going to move the chain up a little higher here. Again, don't try this at home unless you're a professional, because I don't want a liability. I have Outboard Dad and McGowan's Marine take no liability in any of these. So now I'm just going to crank it up and get it up above the motor, and then we'll get our chain hooked up. I'll show you how we do that, and we'll pick this up off of here safely, and then I'll show you the wheels I'm going to put on it so we can wheel it around the shop. So now we're going to hook up our chain with our shackle. So a lot of times these shackles have a rating right on them. This does not, but I purchased this at Grainger and it does have a 2,500 pound rate. So again, I'm you know, 3-4 times the rate that's required. So I'm going to take my shackle and I'm going to go ahead and put it through. And then put my chain on. Make sure my bolt is nice and tight. Try to find the center of my chain here and hook it on my hook. And then we're ready to rig. What I'll do is I'll take a little bit of weight off of it. And then if you see on my cart here that I built, I have some 3/8 threaded rod that are on here. Sometimes I'll put a screw in the bottom as well, just like a wood screw with a big fat washer just to hold it, but I didn't for this one. So we'll take these off once I get the weight on it, and then I'll show you how we hook up our wheels. So I made sure none of my cables are in the way. Again, it's about safety to start with. So I wrapped my battery cables around it just so they're not in the way of anything. And now we'll pick it up off of this cart, get the cart out of the way, and we'll drop this down and put our wheels on it. Okay, so now we're ready to crank it up. We got the bolts off of it. It's still hooked on here, but I have most of the weight of it on the lift. So we're gonna get it off this cart, and then this is what I made with a couple of wheels on it. These are actually from another Harbor Freight lift that I had one bad wheel under warranty, and instead of them sending me one bad wheel, they sent me a whole set, so I got extra steel wheels. And if you notice, I have a couple holes in here that should match up with this. So we're gonna bolt it up on there, and then we'll be able to lay it down on the floor. It'll keep it from getting cracked, and I can roll it around in the shop. So let's get this put together. So let's see if our bolt holes will line up here. That'll work. Just using standard 3/8 threaded rod. Again, this threaded rod I get from a supply house is rated for, I believe it's 3,500 pounds. I keep saying 2,500, 3,500. I know it's in that range, but this is going to sit right on here, so we're not as concerned about it that way. Now you do have to notice there will be a little bit of fuel leakage when we tilt this over because the carburetors are going to dump out. Actually not a bad thing because we don't want the fuel laying in the bottom of the carburetors depending on how long this motor sits. It is up for sale, but it is the end of the season, so it might not sell till next spring for me to get the price I want for it. So now I got some wheels on here. We'll get our cart out of the way. Nice and easy, we'll lower it down. So now this is set on the ground like this, I can kind of bring it around without really hurting my back. I can move it around the shop. I can lift it up here so I don't drag on the lower unit, and I can put it wherever I want in the shop. So let's get that trailer over here. Let's get that 150 off onto our cart so we can start checking out the one with the rod knock. This is Keith McGowan, the Outboard Dad, here to help you have a better boating experience.